Good evening. Our top story this week. In New York, a real father is suing a man-hating shrink after she deemed him an unfit father for refusing to take his 4-year-old fit-throwing son to McDonald's. Also in New York this week, 2 homicides prompt a state hearing on the child protective industry's failure to protect kids in Erie County, and they're holding a public hearing on the issue since they can't figure out what to do about it themselves. Foster kids from Amarillo, Texas are being shipped across the state to be warehoused in psychiatric treatment facilities due to a lack of facilities in the area. The Texas CPS boss says that he expects his CPS agents to conduct thorough investigations that focus first on children's safety, while 9 children have died while in the Texas foster care system over the last year. In California, the union representing CPS agents filed a lawsuit to force the county to reduce caseloads. In Florida, a new report is criticizing the child protective industry's failed efforts to protect children from child abuse. In Kentucky, a panel asked for $420,000 to review and improve the state's child protective industry. And in New Jersey, teenagers who are being held in the child welfare system are at a higher than average risk of abusing marijuana, inhalants, and other drugs. The state of Washington is lagging behind the rest of the country in regards to the rights of foster kids. In Wisconsin, the state wants to require FBI checks for child care workers, and the new Diagnostic and Statistical Manual widens the classifications for ADHD in kids, making it that much more likely that they will be diagnosed and medicated. In India, the Child Welfare Committee has misled the guardians of 2 kids who were sent out for adoption against their wishes. In Ireland, researchers are claiming that parents' stress can affect their babies. Black kids in Ireland are 20 times more likely to be taken into state care than are Irish kids. And in Northern Ireland, the health minister is upset because he can't overturn a decision that allows gays to adopt stolen children. In Canada, according to a new report, British Columbia's child protective industry wasted $66 million on failed Aboriginal child welfare reforms. And although the supposed reforms had originally started with the best of intentions, they've since been described as a gravy train with no destination. Of course, everybody involved is trying to weasel their way out of any responsibility for the mess. And the province of Ontario has more than 8,000 of your stolen kids for sale. In England, a man who went on the run with a 14-year-old girl who he lured out of her foster home gets 6 years for having sex with her. In England, a man who went on the run with a 14-year-old girl who he lured out of her foster home gets 6 years for having sex with her. And another couple flees to France to try to prevent British social workers from snatching their kids, only to lose the baby anyway. In entertainment news this week, Charlie Sheen's ex-wife Denise Richards has decided that she can no longer handle Brooke and Charlie's 2 violent twins. An emergency meeting is called to decide the custody of little Max and Bob, who was apparently injured while in the care of somebody, with a fresh CPS investigation to boot. Charlie has been ordered by a judge to stay at least 200 yards away from Brooke. And Brooke's brother Scott wins temporary custody and is now going to move in with Brooke and is demanding $55,000 a month in child support from Charlie Sheen. In Alabama, a man is arrested for sexually abusing 2 foster kids who are in his mother's care. In Arizona, a foster mother gets 10 years probation for failing to stop her husband from molesting foster kids in their care. In Colorado, a CPS agent and her husband were sent to jail for stealing more than $53,000 from an adoption subsidy program. And a Colorado man has been charged for using Craigslist to advertise a foster child as a prostitute in exchange for cash and meth. In Maine, a CPS agent who came up from Vermont to see a young girl who was placed in her father's care pleads guilty to unlawful sexual contact after performing an unwarranted physical exam. A Florida mother is charged with snatching her own kids back from a family member after CPS took them away. In New Hampshire, 2 parents are accused of threatening the children of a CPS agent who stole their own kids. In Texas, a jury orders probation in the case of a 3-year-old adopted daughter who he killed. In Utah, a former social worker who was accused of having sex with a teenage patient makes his first court appearance. And in West Virginia, a family court judge is arrested for assaulting a nurse at a hospital. In Oklahoma, the adoptive parents who stole baby Veronica from her real father is now trying to force him to pay more than $1 million in legal fees. Kentucky launches an investigation into a couple of foster parents over criminal abuse charges. In Ohio, a 14-year-old foster kid who is accused of trying to kill his foster parents by burning the house down will remain in juvenile detention until a competency hearing next month. In Pennsylvania, a woman is banned from Twitter after she bitched about a county judge and a CPS agent on the site. And finally tonight, a Florida mother gets her kids back after a judge finds out that a CPS agent who helped the father take them away was actually having sex with him at the time. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK, over and out.